What is grief? Grief is an emotion. A time I felt profound grief myself was at my grandfather's funeral. I hadn't planned on crying, and we just went out to the family graveside in Stanislaus County in California, where my grandfather had lived and where my father grew up. And when we got there, I saw lots of my cousins that I hadn't seen in 10 years or so and their children. But what really started to move me was when they were actually heaping the dirt onto my grandfather's grave. The German Baptists who were there started singing in four-part harmony these hymns that I'd never heard before, but were somehow also familiar, and I felt this really complex emotional tug well up inside me, and I just started weeping like a baby. Ancient men and women had different ways of trying to corral grief, try to bring it under control. One way was that of the philosophers, to try and use reason to think one's way out of grief. And sometimes that can be helpful. But there was another way, advocated by other philosophers, and also that we see in the New Testament. And that is that one can try and combat a bad emotion like grief with a good emotion like joy. For me, one of the best ways to foster the good emotions and try to combat grief is through poetry. And so I thought I would read a poem by one of my favorite Jesuit poets, Gerard Manley Hopkins. It's a poem that I sometimes use in my classes, and it's called Pied Beauty. Pied Beauty by Gerard Manley Hopkins. Glory be to God for dappled things, for skies of couple color as a brinded cow, for rose moles all in stibble upon trout swim, fresh fire coal, chestnut falls, finches' wings, landscape plotted and pieced, fold, fallow, and plough, and all trades their gear and tackle in trim. All things counter, original, spare, strange, whatever is fickle, freckled, who knows how. With swift, slow, sweet, sour, dazzled, dim, he fathers forth whose beauty is past change. Praise him.